that because it's the moment to organize this type of dialogues, because as you know, the regions are now implementing the new governance of their smart specialization strategies. The entrepreneurial discovery process is one of the key elements, and the new enabling condition demands better governance. We believe that responsible research and innovation could bring a better design of the smart specialization strategies. As you know, the 5 key principles, the citizen engagement is a key element for the second generation of the smart specialization strategies, but as well the open science, the gender issues, the ethics, and the science education are as well very relevant and will be present in many regional innovation strategies that regional practitioners are implementing. So we think that we have a lot to say and a lot to share. That's why we call this type of events dialogues, because we thought that with an inspiring presentation and 2 panelists, we will have an initial setup for establishing a dialogue. Following our experience of the first dialogue, we don't say that it will last 1 hour. It will say a maximum 1 hour and a half, and we will see when we finish. So if we don't have anything to dialogue, we will finish before. But in the first edition, we thought, and we had the feeling that we stopped too early, so we were on the time. So in this case, we are going to have, as in the previous dialogue, an inspiring practical presentation. In this case will be Giulia Bubolini that will present us her experience. And then later we will have 2 very good panelists that will help us to share and to initiate the dialogue. The first one will be Dimitri Korpakis, a former high-level worker in the European Commission. I will introduce you later. And then Nineta Chaniotou, a former worker on a high-level employee as well in the development agency of Kainuu region, and now working for the Kainuu region. So without no more introduction, I'm going to give you the introduction to the first speaker is Miss Giulia Bubolini. She has a degree on economic and trade from the University of Modena, Reggio Emilia, and she has studies in the University of Strathclyde and as well in SME internationalization. She's now the head of European Union project and public funding in the Center for Innovation and Economic Development of the Chamber of Commerce of Romania. She has come to this world of responsible research and innovation because she comes from a very practical point of view. She has an experience on supporting a small business in compete in the global market, and there she helped them to analyze and to help with their sustainability and social accountability and corporate social responsibility. We like that because he's now a person really attached to the ground. She is the coordinator of an interesting Interreg Europe project. It's called Marie, and as well other project, other Interreg project called Rosie. Especially Marie is very interesting. They have several agencies like AIM from Galicia or DEVAP from Centre Val de Loire, and as well the Southern Regional Assembly from Ireland or Tampere region. In total, 8 regions. She will explain us what they have discovered there in order to share her experience. So thank you, Giulia, for being with us and share your views and vision in this dialogue of responsible regions. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Esteban. Thank you very much for the kind introduction and for having me with you this afternoon. I'm really looking forward the discussion that will follow my presentation. I do have quite a lot of slides, and I apologize for that, but I was really under the pressure of doing good for my wonderful project partners that have been showing great commitment and with whom we've been able to achieve some tangible results, as you will see. So without further ado, I'll share my screen to complement a little bit the introduction that you already were so kind to give to the audience. I'm afraid that you will see everything very, very tiny, almost not able to read it, but in a way I prefer it like that. You will receive the slides afterward, and you know, so you don't get distracted by colors and bullet points. So to start, and as I said, to complement your introduction, I would like to take you through very, very quickly through our journey, the journey of CISE towards RRI, which is a journey of an organization that is a true believer in triple bottom innovation policies. We do think that innovation has also to deliver with reference to sustainability and social justice. So we basically started from matching our job in the world of supporting innovation to our interest and expertise in CSR. And then we took this experience into a number of European projects that a long time went from trying to bring CSR at an always earlier and earlier time in the value chain to projects that are dealing expressly with responsible research and innovation. Besides project, we also delivered a number of actual tools that enterprises could use. So you may see on screen a star with UGO certification on it, and a less legible draft for public comment of practice that was published along with ISO Italian member. These are two tools in the sense that they provide a number of requirements and guidelines so that enterprises can actually be responsible innovators. We also organized a couple of city-wide events to sort of showcase responsible innovation and also give an opportunity to citizens and other institutions to understand what their role might be. And as I said, the reason why we do that is because we believe that every single euro of public money that is invested in innovation should also deliver on sustainability and social justice and inclusiveness. So I also think that as a way of introduction, it's necessary to maybe spend a couple of seconds on the the peculiarities of projects like Interact Europe Marianne, Interact Central Europe ROSI, because they're different from Horizon 2020 and in general from research and innovation projects. We're not expected to generate new knowledge. What we're expected to do is find some common challenges, find some common issues, and try and group and try to exchange and help each other so that we're able to plan actions that would improve existing policy instruments. So rather than an arrow, I've been using this shooting star because I was trying to be a bit festive since we're close to Christmas, but on the other end is also what is expected from this project is to to improve regional policies through exchange so that European regions can shine in a way. I will just say a couple of words also to introduce the two projects that I'm supposed to talk about this afternoon. And the first one is Marie. The project is still ongoing, although phase one is over. We are 10 partners from 8 European regions, and what we were supposed to do was to generate 8 action plans to mainstream responsible innovation in S3 policies. We were given 3 years to issue the action plans, and now we're given 2 more years to monitor the actual implementation of the action plan. The bulk of the work is during the 3 years, but the last 2 years are not less important. Partners were University of Tampere, Council of Tampere Region, our from Athens, University of Economics and Business, the region Attica, Schleswig-Holstein, GAIN, that is Galicia Innovation Center, DEVAP, Centre Val de Loire Innovation Agency, the Innovation Agency of region Bucharest-Ilfov, and Southern Regional Assembly in Ireland, as well as CISE. And we were greatly helped by Resolvo, which is a private consultancy firm, which provides a system for management of European projects, but they're also responsible innovators themselves. That's why I'm mentioning them. Otherwise, I wouldn't normally mention a supplier. While Marie was aiming at embedding RRI in regional smart specialization strategies, Rosie was rather focusing on bringing a responsible innovation towards and within SMEs in Central Europe. That is the kind of lessons learned would then be made available to policymakers, but the actual focus of our work in Rosie was really to get SMEs put their hands on responsible innovation rather than research. We were 11 partners. The project was just concluded last summer. 5 associate partners, 8 European regions, and just to give you some numbers, we trained over 300 SMEs, as in we transferred the key concepts and a couple of tools to manage responsible innovation. And we also had the chance to put in place five pilot actions involving about 50 SMEs. Again, this is a bit more challenging for me than it was to mention the partner in Marie, because the names are like very difficult for me to pronounce. Anyway, we had the city of Šibenik, we had CCSS, which is unpronounceable, but it's a Czech center for, again, innovation. Lubelski Voivodeship in Poland, so it's the province, the county of Lublin. EMFI is the first Hungarian association for responsible innovation. Innovatia, again, in Croatia, is an innovation center. Then we have the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Slovenia, the city of Nova Gorica, Innovap, innovation agency of the Chamber of Commerce of Milano in Italy, TGZ Bautzen in Germany is an incubator, and who else? And CISE, and again, Resolvo. So straight to what we've been doing in Marie. So the work started with mapping maturity in the regions involved. And we developed our own methodology, which is available for whoever is interested. I'll just spend a few words around it. We developed our own methodology to assess maturity. We shopped a few indicators from Morri. We kind of reviewed them so that it was possible to actually collect information which was both quantitative and qualitative. As you can see, the scores were pretty low. That was back in 2017. I couldn't honestly say that, you know, if we were to do this exercise now, everybody would score like, you know, super mature or anything like that, but still, you know, the seeds of improvement, the seeds of growth have been planted. So I'm quite confident that at the end of 2021, when Marie will be finished and when we will try and understand, you know, you know, how we're faring towards RRI maturity, probably all of these regions would show a growth in their maturity towards RRI. Again, as I said, the methodology is available. What they did at that time was to stick to the 6 RRI keys as they were proposed by the work package of Horizon 2020, dealing with the sciences and and for society. Will we do that again at this point in time? Maybe not. Maybe we would rather look at the SDGs, as I believe many of you guys are doing. Anyway, at that time, that was the Bible, so to speak, and so we were quite orthodox in our exercise.
Julia, excuse me, we are always in the same slide. Is that correct or not?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you see the new ones now?
Okay, yes, now yes.
I don't know, for some reason I was, you know, I was scrolling.
Yeah, but because you speak so well, we thought that it was related to the first one.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know why, because I was seeing new slides, so maybe I was just scrolling the wrong.
Now we see very well. It's a table with Marie. Perfect.
Okay. Again, you know, these slides that I'm showing are more to, you know, flash some colors, but you will have the slides and you will have the opportunity to maybe look into them and maybe also go back to the methodology that I was telling you about. Besides mapping maturity, we also engaged in a very, very small exercise of interviewing enterprises, because of course our focus was regional policies, but at the end of the day, regional operational plans are about innovation, and innovation happens only when companies bring it into the market. So we thought that it was, you know, a good thing to try and also check whether enterprises were already to some extent aware of RRI. So we found out, you know, we just had 23 interviews, so I'm not saying that this is scientifically robust or anything, but I think it's also, it's interesting anyway. So in terms of internal drivers, we see a lot about, you know, the point, number one point was about culture. Again, there were benefits, but also, you know, culture was really, you know, really reported and underlined by every enterprise interviewed. And I'm saying this because I do think that RRI is a change of mindset, and a change of mindset happens if there's, you know, there's a leadership that points the whole company towards RRI. So no matter how good we are as policymakers to promote RRI, you know, it really doesn't happen if we don't appeal to the leaders and we just, you know, I don't know, maybe provide money, funding, whatever. We really need to talk to the leaders of change for RRI to happen, because it's so much more complicated than just, you know, harvesting opportunities. Again, external drivers, of course, incentives are there. They will always be there, because that's the easiest thing to say for the enterprise. It's just give me the money and then I'll do it. But I don't really believe that that's the point. I truly don't. You know, enablers and barrier are like, you know, the complementing part of the usual SWOT analysis. But what I would like to really highlight is that partnership is both an internal driver and an enabler. that means that the, you know, the 17th Sustainable Development Goals or partnership is really something that should be broken down at every level, because it is meaningful at every level. And I do think we have a role in that too, to provide an ecosystem which is open to partnership, to collaboration, to open innovation, to co-creation. Barriers, there's so many, we just don't want to spend time on that because they're the usual ones, so to speak. Then the methodology, you know, the how we got from maturity mapping to action planning was a long, complicated, and somehow bumpy journey that we always try to generalize into a sound methodology that could be transferred to other regions. So again, this slide is not meant to be read in its detailed, but it's just to show you that what we did was go from maturity analysis to identifying gap, to seeing what good practices were available within the partnership that could fill those gaps, and then proceed to adopting and adapting those good practices with the help of our peers, of our partners, and in this choice of which good practices to uptake, adapt, and adopt, we were again supported by a simple but strong methodology that was that allowed us to really see what good practices would fit better. So this, you know, this is to say that although we're not a research and innovation project, we really try to be scientific about the kind of work that we were doing, because besides wanting to achieve our own goals, we really wanted to make something available to other partners, and which is, you know, the reason why I'm here with you today. Then, oh, sorry. In terms of overall Marie journey, I already gave you the details, but the deliverable, the main deliverable, are action plans that are signed by the policy instrument owners, and therefore this is an actual commitment by policymakers to then implement those actions in the 2 years of the phase 2. Again, I've already mentioned peer support and peer advice among partners. What I forgot to mention, but which is like a kind of fil rouge of the project, is stakeholder engagement. Again and again, we put our stakeholders up to speed to what was happening within the project, and we checked with them whether, you know, what we were doing made sense, whether we were steering our project correctly, so that the actions that ended up in the final action plan were actual feasible actions in terms of resources, in terms of financial resources, budget, but also in terms of support from the stakeholders. Because, you know, this is nothing new for you guys, but quadruple helix engagement, public engagement are really key. They're one of the, you know, the most important elements of RRI, but also the most challenging one in so many ways, and not just for policymakers, also for enterprises. So now to the meaty, juicy part of my presentation, you know, the actual actions that were planned. You know, I'm starting from Tampere region for the mere fact that they were the first one to score. They were the first one to really put in place the action that they planned. So for region Tampere, artificial intelligence is a priority for the regional operational plan, and the kind of support that they provide for the, you know, to become an artificial intelligence leading region in Europe is to support applied research in the field. This is something I just saying something in parentheses. It's not the same for every region. Not every region supports research. Some regions only support research. Some regions support research and innovation by enterprises. Some regions support innovation by enterprises, but they leave research to somebody else. In the case of Tampere region, the funding went directed to research. So to research and researchers, not to enterprises. What they did is to try and embed RRI-inspired criteria in their funding of artificial intelligence research projects. And the criteria were developed by the Tampere region, assisted by Tampere University and VTT, that I'm sure you all know. And they were able to apply those criteria over 1.7 million first call and 2 million euros second call. So quite a lot of money was granted under, within this RRI umbrella. And the kind of results that they were able to achieve, and also the findings, which, since we're policymakers, are also a result that is extremely valuable. Was that by merely putting out a call that including some RRI criteria, they were actually able to raise awareness of RRI, in a wider set of people than those that actually applied at the end. Also, the criteria were quite well accepted. There were not like major difficulties, and multidisciplinarity of projects was enhanced, as in they found more multidisciplinarity in projects submitted under these two calls than before. And so we might assume that that's a result of including criteria. And and safety issues connected with the GPR, these are details that maybe are not so meaningful for us right now. Also, an element that emerged was that there's always a bit of confusion, between openness and communication. Communication is not necessarily true openness. Communication is not necessarily transparency. So, words are meaningful in this field, and maybe we need to still work about, on the jargon a little bit. The criteria that were included were not, the whole set of RRI criteria. They focused on ethics, engagement, openness and transparency, and safety and reliability. And the way they set the criteria was to actually define some questions that were both guiding in terms of how they should develop their proposal, and also elements of evaluation. That is to say that they try to keep it simple, because it was the first exercise, but also because you need to keep it simple. Academia has done a great job in defining RRI and reasoning around it, and also providing measures and tools and methodologies. But you really need to keep it simple, which doesn't mean simplistic, but it means feasible, viable, understandable by enterprises. Because again, innovation happens only when companies bring some new products or services into the market. Otherwise, it's just research. Super valuable, but it's not, if it doesn't reach the market, it doesn't really change things. It doesn't really have a strong impact on everybody's life. Okay. Of course, they didn't just put the call out with RRI criteria and then wash their hands, but they also provided the opportunity to explain what responsible artificial design could look like. They provided an help desk service, and they also did an awful lot of other things in order to make information available to those that were preparing their proposals. So information, toolboxes, and networking opportunities as well. And this is very important because you cannot just break the news and then disappear. Okay, there's still an awful lot of work to do in terms of awareness raising, in terms of capacity building, transferring relevant information so that innovators can find a way towards RRI. And that's what they did. Attica region is also committed to include RRI criteria in their funding. Of course, then COVID happened, everything was slowed down, but this is a kind of action that you will see in place sooner than later in Region Attica as well. The Southern Regional Assembly case, Tampere region, they kind of looked at the process of promoting RRI from the beginning. I'm giving you money to develop responsible innovation, whereas Southern Regional Assembly choose the viewpoint of kind of the end of the process. Let's see whether the innovation, this is research, the research that we're supporting in Southern Ireland is actually delivering in terms of RRI objectives. And they partnered with Science Foundation Ireland, which actually manages 2 funding schemes that are included in the regional operational plan of Southern Regional Assembly. So if you wish, the approach that the Southern Regional Assembly took was less disruptive in a way compared to that of Tampere, but they had the opportunity to rely on the partnership of Science Foundation Ireland and to really assess RRI impact on a huge number of projects that were mainly devoted to promoting STEMs education. So the kind of indicators of impact assessment indicators that they used might mean a little to you at this point in time, because those were really specific to the kind of funding whose impact that they were measuring. But the approach is relevant, and it's the approach of trying to change the way that you measure your success as a regional policymaker in terms of delivering not just on innovation, but also on sustainability and again on social justice. What they're doing now is to go further and expand the impact of RRI beyond research funding and to include RRI element in their regional plans. They're not. It's not the regional smart specialization strategy, but it's a wider national strategy which demands regions to set a vision that is wider than just that regarding innovation, and they're trying to embed RRI within this exercise as an umbrella, as a methodology that can bring together the different societal, environmental, and economic development issues. This is in work in progress, so there's no results to report yet, but I thought it was interesting to mention. Second last example that I'm taking you through is that of Bucharest EURADA region, and what they did is concentrate on awareness raising, and on providing support to those that for different reasons are becoming and will become interested in responsible innovation. You know, responsible innovation is a buzzword, so it could happen that somebody knocks our door because they know that we know something about it. So they try to make that, you know, the capacity to respond structural, and they're setting up an RRI contact point. And they're putting in place a program of continuous awareness raising around RRI. And in order to do that, they didn't build from scratch, but they are making use of their innovation cafe community. It's a very wide community, a quadruple helix that gets together periodically to discuss different you know, elements that deal with innovation, sustainable development, social innovation. And so they thought, why not always keep our discussion within a track of responsible research and innovation? So it may appear a simple action, but nonetheless an important one, because if you provide funding, very good, you measure impact, very good. But, you know, if you want to engage with your stakeholders, if you want to have enterprises and other organizations committed, you need to transfer them the element, the information, and the capacity to do so. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. So it seems simple, but it's key. So it's definitely worth mentioning. And then last and least, I would also say what we did was include RRI as a strategic objective within the multi-annual plan of the Chamber of Commerce of Romagna. Again, somebody may say, so what? I understand that, but the trick here is that the multi-annual plan then feeds into the annual performance plan, and the annual performance plans are KPIs are those that then define whether the civil servants, the officer, will get or will not get their bonuses. So in a way, we built, you know, maybe they're unwilling partners in delivering RRI, but they're partners nonetheless. They have, you know, they have an obligation to always refer their actions to RRI. Of course, they're not RRI experts, but, you know, they've been conveyed the idea that when they think innovation, they also must think environment and people, that you know, the planning, the designing of support actions for innovation must be inspired by a triple bottom line. So rather simple, again, could be potentially powerful. Few things about Rosie, and then I'll just be super happy to hear your question and comments. As I said, Rosie had a completely different focus. We were not working, you know, straightforwardly towards improving policy, regional policy instruments, but we were rather trying to have SMEs actually engage in responsible innovation. And what we got in terms of lessons learned from this exercise is that, you know, number one, a lot of SMEs, which we all know are the backbone of our economy, do not engage in controversial or disruptive innovation. Most times they just, you know, embed somebody else's innovation in their products and services. So you really need to find a different way to talk responsible innovation with them, which has less to do with you know, their internal R&D departments, which they don't have, and has much more to do on you know, on how they supply, how they source whatever they need to source or outsource. And again, it's not the same thing, although at the end of the day, it's about contributing to a smart, sustainable, and inclusive development for everybody. Again, what they have more clearly in mind is CSR rather than RRI. That can be useful because we've been saying that CSR can be a stepping stone. On the other hand, they seem to always fall back on CSR, which is something that normally happens when, you know, when the innovation process is already closed. And so again, this, you know, we have a very difficult relationship with CSR to that extent. Also,
Julia, if you could start finishing, because we
yes,
would like to have a dialogue. Thank you
yes,
very much. It's very interesting. So the time flies. And
yeah, I know. This is this is actually the last slide, because okay, the other ones are just about data, which I have included, but I was going to leave, you know, for your reading afterwards. Okay. So again, also for enterprises, what is very complicated is to put together, you know, the huge variety of management systems that they have in place. And then many times they have them in place because it's demanded by somebody else. So it's not their choice. And as it was not their choice, they didn't enter into this, you know, system management as something that needs to be coherent and consistent. To them, it's all bits and pieces. And so if you also talk RRI to them, they see another, they look at it as another piece in the puzzle, whereas the frame of the puzzle, so to speak. So you need to adapt your language, and you really need to work on the mindset, I would say. Same thing, short, medium-term horizon for SMEs. So although we've learned from COVID that 5 years plans don't work anymore, the vision needs to be long-term, and normally they don't have that kind of vision. And last thing that I would like to mention, because I also think that that opens up to a huge question for policymaker, is that it's not clear for SMEs how to engage with stakeholders. They don't know who the stakeholders are. They don't know where, you know, association that represent themselves as you know, reliable stakeholders get the legitimation from, and they don't have neither the time nor the money, and less than everything, they have the methodology to really engage with stakeholders. And there, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done by policymakers. And this is something that I would like to, you know, discuss with you as well, because, you know, that's very important. Quadruple helix stakeholder engagement, we say that every day, and then it's super difficult to really put it in place, especially with SMEs that, again, are the majority of our enterprises. And regional operational plans are about innovation. They're about companies, therefore. Thank you for your attention. I'll share.
Thank you to you for the interesting and especially practical vision about how to implement RRI. Now, following our structure of the dialogue, I'm going to give the word to the two panelists, and then we will initiate a debate. And finally, I will give you some information about interesting initiative of the RRI community. So, but first, please let me introduce you, Dimitri Korpakis. He's engineer by training, but I will say the best thing of Dimitri is that he has been working in the European Commission for several decades, and he was the voice of the regions in DG research. For us, was really relevant. Among other things, he was the head of UNIP in charge of the region of knowledge initiative that was really important for many regions, and is an expert that knows a lot about regional innovation ecosystem from different angles: ICT, education, social humanities. So, and we are lucky, but because still is active, even if he has left the European Commission, he's working with a lot of interest in the in the Friends of Smart Specialization Association or initiative, and as well he's part of the executive committee of the Triple Helix Association. So, despite he's retired, he's very active and providing as well knowledge. Thank you very much for being with us, Dimitri. And we would like to have your vision and your impression about what you have heard, and as well in general about the RRI implementation in regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Esteban, for this introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very humbled by this introduction. Thank you very much. I found the presentation by Julia very, very interesting and actually quite original. Because talking for RRI in a regional development setting, especially for in the interregional cooperation area, is also difficult because it is not immediate understandable probably by many people and organizations involved in the field why anybody should be giving any kind of attention to this initiative. Maybe because many times people think that the European Commission comes up with particular interesting ideas which nobody actually needs. And we could actually do without all these things. So I just want to give you a little flashback because I had the chance to work actually in social science and humanities when the concept of responsible research and innovation was developed. My colleague René von Schomburg, that at the time, 2013, was working in the Science and Society unit, which then evolved in what we know now as the SWAPS program, the Science with and for Society. And I think the most important thing to remember is that from our perspective, the responsible innovation was introduced as a concept with the aim of addressing the right impacts of research and innovation on society. Because in principle, when you talk about, for example, the environment, environmental policy, everybody takes for granted that environmental policy has a very important societal goal to protect the environment, to protect our quality of life, etc. And when it comes for research and innovation, people assume automatically that it is for good and for it will bring you automatically to economic growth and to many, many unquestionable issues, which is not, of course, the case, because there are many, many open questions, even when you are talking on research and innovation. So the idea was to attempt to reconnect the research and innovation with the societal goals that resonate with society. And this was actually a difficult exercise because many people were not really adhering as such automatically in the process. And to go back to the original definition, and I quote, responsible research and innovation is a transparent, interactive process by which societal actors and innovators become mutually responsive to each other with a view to the ethical acceptability, sustainability, and societal desirability of the innovation process and its marketable products in order to allow a proper embedding of scientific and technological advances in our society. And this is not automatic in any case, because we have seen in many ways that Julia brought the example of artificial intelligence, and as you know, there is a huge debate now about what you can actually do with artificial intelligence. As with every advancement in science and technology, this cuts both ways. So you can have great results, but you can have also a lot of non-societable desirable results, because there are many, many ethical questions that you have to be very much attentive. And this brings also back the question of responsible research and innovation in the context of organizations, because when you talk about in organizations, and Julia brought the example of small and medium-sized enterprises with Rosie, especially in the context of Central and Eastern Europe, you ask yourself in the first place, innovation, I mean, what these people can do, and why do they need to have this in mind? Actually, you need to have responsible innovation in mind when you are in a business context, for the simple reason to have better success with your innovation product. Because if your innovation activity is not really targeting the really good objectives in your innovation processes, you will not have the market success you are actually targeting. And if you look back to the results that you can see in the market, mostly really, I would say, innovations that resonate with society have the most of success. Now, we have to put also, again, the safeguard of the innovation, the ethical principle, and Julia has referred a lot on corporate social responsibility. We have also to be extremely careful with this idea, because many, especially big corporations, usually master the idea of corporate social responsibility to bring you exactly what they want under the package of CSR. So we need to be very, very careful about this. But nevertheless, it's important to keep in mind that inside organizations, we can actually illuminate this concept, not to bring it as an add-on, because if you bring this as an add-on, people feel a little bit disturbed. So they say, what we have to do with this? Maybe this is an additional burden to this to the innovation process. And you all remember about the motto of Facebook, move fast and break things, which is not always a good definition of innovation, because if you break things, you also risk to break a lot of things in society, and it's not a good thing. And I go back to the very good example of artificial intelligence, where, as you know, we have developed now in the Union, there is a high-level group who has produced a lot of, actually a vademecum of rules about ethical artificial intelligence, because there are many difficult and dangerous things you do with artificial intelligence. As you know, for example, you all know the question of deep fakes, where people mimic human nature with a bad directionality. And if you go to the most dangerous part of artificial intelligence in warfare, where you have now the development of artificial intelligence guided drones, where I cannot stress more the horror of this kind of weapons that are now being not only developed but actually applied as we speak. And you all know different examples as they hit the news. But if you want to bring this back to regional development, because we are in the context of regional development here, I want to bring this in the context of smart specialization, because I was presented in the agenda as part of the Friends of Smart Specialization initiative, which is true. And this is not an association yet, but we may think about it later on. But if you think about the value of responsible research and innovation, it takes its full splendor, I would say, in the context of the EDP, of the entrepreneurial discovery process, which is the core of the smart specialization process, because you bring in a bottom-up process, which is the core, the motor of a genuine smart specialization process. So we want to ensure inclusivity in this process. We don't want the process to be hijacked by the well-known suspects in every region. In every region, you have very powerful actors sometimes, but you have less powerful people, smaller organizations that have something to say, and they are often not heard. So we want to bring in this kind of ethical dimension in the EDP. And I think by applying ARI in the EDP process, and I understand the whole TeRRItoria project is about bringing more the values of the ethical values in the EDP, is actually a very important thing. And I would like to finish by saying that this is now a process that it is more mainstreamed in the framework program, because as you have seen, Horizon Europe is going to function more on a co-design process, more on co-creation. If you actually go through the pages of the final text of Horizon Europe, you will be actually surprised to see how much this co-creation idea is to be found everywhere. Now I'm actually waiting now to see how this is going to be applied in practice, and I think we all need to pay some attention how this will connect the co-creation process with responsible research and innovation with the framework program. But again, it's a great idea to be able to apply more responsible research and innovation in the regional development process, because we don't bring anything new to the process. We just need to stress that we want everybody to get involved. You will have probably heard a lot the idea about not leave anyone behind, and this has to be not literally taken into account. And by applying these principles, we can think that we can hope that this will be actually realized. So I will like to end my talk here for the moment. Maybe I will have the opportunity to come back.
Say something. Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you very much for your interesting point of view. And it's a luxury to have you here. You have been in the origins of the RRI inside of the European Commission as well. You were there. So we go to an actual regional economic developer practitioner. So it's a privilege for us to present Nineta Chaniotou. She's working in she has different backgrounds among bachelor in mathematics, histories and civilization, and master on city planning. And she was the director of an international project in the development company Kainuetu, and nowadays she is the senior project manager in the regional council of Kainu. For those of you that don't know, Kainu is a region with the size of Belgium, but with less than 100,000 inhabitants in the middle of Finland.
Less than 73,000.
Less than 73, okay. More years probably than people living there. So please, the word is yours, Nineta. Yes.
Thanks for having me here. Very fast. I went through the two projects. Giacomo knows, and in detail. Then I found 29 Horizon Europe projects that have been dealing, not Europe, pardon, Horizon 2020, that have been dealing with RRI in different ways, very useful ones. And then I also read some articles, and one article made light to my mind, and I can share later from somebody from Vienna. Okay, I would like to say to contribute to what first Julia said and then make some complementarities with the way that Dimitris presented the things, because they link to regional policy. When I read the action plans, first the Central Europe Interreg, I thought at some point, Julia, that you had connected the RRI to some level of standards. And I thought that is very good if it really happened, even if they are voluntary standards, because it makes it easier for businesses to adjust once they are trained and things are explained. This, I thought that is a very good idea, but not all 5 domains of RRI are, yes, they are possible to be in standards. Then I read all the action plans from Marie, the formation professionnelle, once in Interreg Europe, always in Interreg Europe. And I kind of agree with the presentations that Julia made, I mean the selection, because I felt that in Tampere, what they did is a very good way to go. We have to interpret the different RRI domains. We have to interpret according to different sectors. That is it. So I found in the how do we deal with them? They have to be interpreted. What does it mean, for example, the engagement in artificial intelligence? What does it mean, the engagement, when you discuss if you are going to have a mine or if you are going to have a big hotel in some place? When you have, of course, I'm simplifying a lot. So I found very useful the example from Tampere, as Julia indicated. I thought that what they do in the Attica region is also very smart, because they connect to EDP. But also in EDP, we need to interpret what we take into account when we have the EDP sessions and what we don't take into account necessarily. I have found in EDP that it is not enough to use the magic term co-creation. It is necessary that one ensures absorptive capacity to be on some comparable level. So this is one thing that from regional policy point of view, I would like also to stress that we have to have a common language to understand the same things when we use common terminology. I agree very much with Dimitris that these things should not be, they can sound like an add-on. So for us in Kainu, if we would like to call them to, for example, I can go to my boss and I can propose, let's have in our next EDP session this kind of thing. First of all, he will ask me, what is the returns to investment from this? What is the meaning of this? And I think many people, at least my generation that I'm an older bear, remember the Gothenburg principles, integrated development. It was a kind of equilibrium where the cost of societal inclusion and environmental sustainability and economic growth, they found a point of equilibrium. We had a meeting in Brussels for a project, and that meeting Dimitris was there many, many years ago. But it was very difficult to disseminate, but still, if the things had been developed, they would have been mainstreamed, but they were not developed further. So this is the issue that we have to study further, how these RRI principles can be interpreted in different environments in different ways, and what is the equilibrium to which they lead. It's not enough to say it's good. Okay, and then the last thing I would like to discuss, to put as a question, is that, yes, these are ethical things, but could we also consider back humanistic values? I mean, inclusion, why is it ethical and not humanistic? I just want to close with these humble issues and happy to, to be asked further and consider further. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you, Nineta. Very interesting points. I don't know if Julia wants to say, to have a reactions, and then we open the discussion to the public.
Gosh, I've taken an awful lot of notes. I just changed my mic. Can you still hear me okay? Okay, fine. Really, an awful lot of notes. They're all over the place here. So I'm just, jumping maybe from one issue to the other, not necessarily in meaningful order. But on artificial intelligence, I agree that this is really the battlefield for RRI, because it can go so wrong, okay? But at the same time, this is exactly where we need RRI, because as Dimitri was reminding us all, the very definition is that of a process, a process of interaction, which is an interaction that goes back and forth, and it goes on and on and on. It's a life cycle engagement with stakeholders, and responsiveness is an element to it. So it's kind of it's an agreement, is a pact between the innovators and the society, that they're doing their best at every point in time so that impact is foreseen, and when it's not foreseen, it's remediated. That is why I was mentioning the fact that stakeholder engagement is so key, that we need to find a way to make it viable and feasible for enterprises. Is it through living labs? Is it through funding provided by policymakers? I don't really have the answer, but what I do know is that it's a process of continuous engagement, and this engagement needs to be supported and meaningfully enabled. And this is one thing. The other thing, and really I'm going, as I said, bits and pieces, I think that, well, RRI is this set of principles, and is this drive to adhere to ethical values, whatever they are at every point in time. And we're all in together, policymakers and innovators, but at the same time, I think that we have different roles. So I do agree that for a policymaker, it's mostly about the EDP process, right? And so it's mostly about engaging with stakeholders in identifying those priorities that are basically values that are acceptable and shared direction for growth. And then it's up to the innovators to put content into that. So on the one hand, we have the EDP, which is the RRI business for policymakers. And on the other hand, they need to understand how to measure impact and measure it, okay? It's not about reaching objectives anymore. It's about being able to measure whether change happened. And that is very challenging because we're still lacking robust and easy methodologies to do so, or at least maybe they're available, but they're not widely known among policymakers. And on the other hand, is because you cannot really say, okay, I measure impact by measuring impact of innovation projects that I'm providing grant to, because it's a 3 years, 5 years contract, the longest. And after the contract is closed, after the grant contract, the subsidy is not in place anymore, you don't have the legal basis to go back to these people and say, listen, you didn't really deliver or unfold the impact that you say you were going to. And so what? So the kind of impact that you have to measure is really different from the kind of results that the innovators achieve. It's part of the same you know, of the same scenario, but it's different things. So that leads us back to materiality, which was something that Ninetta was mentioning. So I can only do what I can do, and I can only change what I can change. So it's material to both policymakers and enterprises to understand what really matters to them, what leverages they have in their hands, and pursue that, I would say.
1 minute, Julia, 1 minute to allow the dialogue and to more interaction.
Yes, I'll just yes, sure. And standards are super important. I agree, because they provide the opportunity to benchmark, to cooperate on a common basis, but standards for processes, they need to be standards for processes. So they have to have requirements for approach, not indication of possible solutions. Standards can have guidance documents for sectors, but they're not suggestions on how to put things in place. So I agree that standards are good, and I also agree that then there needs to be exercises to really break principle and standards down for specific sectors. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody in the public wants to say something. Could be a comment or just their own experience, to share their own experience. Or if they aside, they could write in the chat and I will read that. Meantime, I would like to make a question. If there is not any question, I would like to make a comment or a question related to what Ninetta has pointed out. Because for me, it's quite interesting, your project, and I wonder how you are really implementing RRI in your Chamber of Commerce, because you said that you are implementing KPIs, how you see the return of investment, how you sell to your boss, as Ninetta said, how you are doing the things practically.
Okay, so I must first publicly admit that operational objectives, we're setting them now. Okay, so I don't have them ready yet. And I honestly, I'm still thinking on how we could implement them so that they're meaningful in order to achieve the strategic objective of promoting responsible innovation in our sub-region of Emilia-Romagna. I think that mostly it will be about setting up a number of practical actions that will mostly hinge on piloting elements, not necessarily of RRI, but methodologies that then pave the way to RRI. For instance, we found that design thinking exercises are really powerful to make enterprises realize how important it is to co-create. And it's also, they're also good because every enterprise has a universe within its premises. You know, different people working for a company, different background, different gender, different religion, number of things. So there's a little universe. So with design thinking exercises, even within company, not necessarily, you know, design thinking exercises of open innovation, therefore, you know, putting together different companies, you really have an opportunity to test what stakeholder engagement is about. So I think we'll be doing quite a few exercises. To make them more meaningful, we will choose innovation challenges that directly, you know, have potentially can potentially highlight the importance of responsible research and innovation as a framework. So we will be dealing with digital transformation, with, you know, privacy, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. We will be dealing with circular economy. And we will also be dealing with measuring impact, social return of investment, for instance. So what we're thinking of doing and what we're thinking of having our people engage in is really providing the opportunity for enterprises to get in touch with the concept and to get their hands on. And we're not doing it through awareness raising, because awareness raising is good. You attend the workshops and then it's a lot of energy, that you bring back and you go, listen, this is what I heard, why don't we do it? And then you get a phone call, you forget all about it. Even if pilots engaged, a much smaller number of enterprises, they actually do things, and that doing things, save something in their hardware, and by doing things, they generate some small change in themselves, their colleagues, and maybe their suppliers or their clients. So it's a smaller number, but it reaches out to a much wider group than awareness raising the way we used to do it. So this is what we will put into the operational objectives, and of course we will ask the companies not to sign that they have attended, but what they've learned, the kind of change that they have actually implemented. So that's impact, like very, very small measure of impact to us.
Julia, and for Ninetta and Dimitri, we have a comment of Jerker Johnson in the chat that you could see is, what about combating stakeholders with vested interest type like greenwashing that takes over the process? Do you have a, Jerker, I don't know if you want to clarify and to say something?
Yes, I could join and say something that you see that, I mean, big companies, they engage in a process, but are they greenwashing? Are they just walking towards consumer sentiments, or are they really engaging? I mean, if you look on, a lot of patents are being bought up in order to put them to rest and not use that. And then you have to, someone, when you engage with stakeholders, you have to try to see, are they dangerous stakeholders? Who should you engage with, and have a methodology for that? Because otherwise, I mean, are they really want to? Do they really want this, or are they just looking it for a company image, for greenwashing or like? So that was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, sometimes happen in general with the corporate social responsibility. So, what do you think, Julia?
So I think that, for being so good and so right at heart, CSR has given, in many cases, a bad name to pursuing a triple bottom line goals, because indeed there's been a lot of greenwashing or social washing out there, just like there's been a lot of fake quality assurance. So it's not typical of CSR or environmental compliance.
Let's give the word to Dimitri and Ninetta as well to get the reaction.
Absolutely.
Dimitri,
so I think it's materiality that matters. You have to ask company to say why they're pursuing that and why it is material and what they expect.
Okay. Dimitri, yes.
I just want to focus again on what Julia was saying about regional development. I mean, how the whole concept of RI can be integrated in the regional development process. And at the end of the day, it's the process that is important, because of course you cannot expect, as it is common, it's a common topic, you cannot expect all regions to reach all these innovation heights that could place them, at the forefront of the innovation movement. Nevertheless, you could expect everybody now being more engaged into what Kevin Morgan calls foundational economy. So a foundational economy is, in simplified terms, what is the infrastructure of everyday life. So the quality of life that everybody needs to expect in a well organized society. Even if it's a small community, even if it's a remote community, a peripheral community, and this exactly is exacerbated now by the pandemic. We have seen that it is felt in different ways in, I would say, big cities, in over-deprived areas, or in parts of cities that are deprived. They do not live the same pandemic than the other parts of the city that are, I would say, richer and more well-off. So, and then it's a question of, again, it's a moral responsibility for regional development to be guided to this kind of impacts, because at the end of the day, we talk about impacts. So the more we have in mind what kind of impacts our policies are being developed for, the more we are closer to responsible research and innovation, even if we don't call it like this, because you have a lot of particular dimensions that you can, of course, identify and recognize as, for example, public engagement, gender equality, open access, risk assessment, science education, above all, good governance. But all of these should not be taken separately. They have to be taken as a whole, integrated to the process, with a real focus on an ethical impact on our regional policy, on where we want to go. And where we want to go actually is to have a new kind of organization in local societies, where you could have a minimum of achievements that they could ensure people of their well-being and security for every aspect of their life. And this is what I would call, you know, the linkage between responsible innovation and society.
I want to give the word before finalizing to Nineta. Thank you very much, Dimitri, for the words of impact and giving all the complete vision. Nineta, final reactions, because I feel free, because I know that you are going to say something meaningful for the regional practitioners, like always.
I feel we should have the problem that the RRI addresses. What is the problem it solves? This idea, and that is not mine, in fact, it comes from this great article I read from this man from Vienna. We have to say, what is this doing? I do not so much believe in moral and in this kind of, oh, you have to do it because it is good. Or yes, you have to do it. And we used to say in Greece when I was a kid that it is very good to be a teacher or a priest, but nobody wanted to be a priest or a teacher. I mean, so anyway, so I feel this RRI must answer some concrete questions. And if these questions can be understood and interpreted in different contexts, they can be taken up because the usefulness will be seen.
Okay, so similar impression like Dimitri. Thank you very much. I'm going to take 1 minute more about giving you ideas of RRI and on the RRI community and opportunities. The first news that you should consider is that after the approval of the multi-annual financial framework, the European Commission, together with the European Parliament and to the Council, is what they made what we call trilogues, and they agreed on the future Horizon Europe and the cohesion policy. This is something that has happened in the last days and is very relevant for the RRI community and the European Union in general. two opportunities that you have open is to organize sessions in the framework of big conference. One is with ERSA, the European Regional Studies Association. They organize the 60th annual Congress in August. You could apply to organize a special session before the 10th of January. Same thing with the Regional Studies Association. They organize what they call Regions in Recovery Festival, something very interesting. Probably EURADA will take part, and we have to apply for a special session before the 27th of January. As well, there are several conferences that will take place. The European Conference on Gender Equality in Madrid, 15th of September, and in Rio, the Research Integrity Practice that will take place in Espoo, close to Nineta, on 27 and 29 of September. But the call for papers will open in April. Speaking about this dialogue, if you want to showcase a practical case on responsible research and innovation in your territory, you are more than welcome. We already have speakers for the 21st of January. We will have a speaker from Norway. 18 on February, we will have a speaker from Romania. 18 of March from Scotland. But we are still looking for people in April. So you know it's the third Thursday of the month. So thank you very much. It has been a privilege to have so interesting views from Julia, because you came from the SMEs and we noticed your practical approaches, and the privilege to have two outstanding panelists as Dimitri Korpakis and Nineta Taniotou. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much for joining us.
Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year. Happy New Year, most of all.
A different new year, yeah.
Different and happy.
Yes, a different new year, absolutely. Yes.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.